Humans, what's up? As you guys saw by the title, we're calling this Fire Emblem's Hottest Takes because today's the 3-year channel anniversary, and what would this channel be without hot takes? I opened up my community tab and my Twitter to answer any question you wanted, be it about Fire Emblem or about anything else. You know, just the internet, normal life, thoughts, perceptions, ideas, gaming, whatever, you name it, you guys asked it. So, is this a mistake? Is this a mistake that all YouTubers make? Yes, but it's fun, so we do it. So why not? So yeah, I'm gonna be answering all your questions in this video. I don't know how long it's gonna be. We're just gonna get right into it. But before we do that, I gotta give you guys a little message from the heart here. You know, I've always said that no content creator is who they are without the people that follow them and who watch their content. And I stand by that. I've been uploading videos for 3 years. Most of this channel's growth has been in the last year. You guys have been amazing. Thank you to everyone who's come out and supported the channel, who's commented, who's come to the streams. You know, my friends who helped me behind the scenes who you guys might not know about. You know, all the content creators who've collaborated with me. It's been a blast. It's been a pleasure. I can't thank all of you guys enough. I just want you guys to know that I wouldn't be here without all the help and support that I've received from people, you know, in the community, out of the community, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I had to get all the nice guy messages out before I start shattering your hearts with my bad takes. Anyways, now I'm gonna classify sort of the questions into 2 different parts. I'm gonna start with Fire Emblem related stuff because I assume that's what most of you guys are here for. And then I'm gonna move on to sort of more non-Fire Emblem related stuff. So if you guys wanna stick around for that, that'd be great. If you guys are just here for the Fire Emblem stuff, that's cool too. Here we go. I'm gonna dive into the first question. I'm gonna start this off with a question from Surgecaster, who says, honestly, your streams are my favorite part of your channel, so a few months ago I decided to make this account in order to interact with you and the rest of the Fire Emblem community. Anyways, I have 2 questions for you. How did you meet Fire Emblem? And what does Fire Emblem mean to you? I feel like that's a great question to start off with. Actually, that's a lie. I put this first for a reason, because everyone needs to know the origin stories, right? You watch a creator, you wonder, you know, how did this guy start with the series? And that's very simple. I started the series, much like most people did, with Super Smash Bros. Melee. I know it's probably like the answer that everyone says and they meme about and they joke about it, but it's true. I played Smash Bros. Melee. I had a thing for edgy characters with swords, so obviously Marth and Roy. And then one day, walking down in the R Zone in Toys R Us, I saw a game with Eliwood on the cover, obviously, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, hey, that's Roy. And wait, Hector looks weird. Why is he holding an axe? And who's that lady in the background? So I bought it, and here we are. Fire Emblem 7, first game ever, back in 2003, I think. I might have started in 2004. I don't remember. One of those years either way. But yeah, that's my Fire Emblem origin story. That's how it all started. Smash Bros. Melee, the meme is a meme for a reason. And what does Fire Emblem mean to me? It's my favorite series. So I love Fire Emblem. I just love playing the games. I love all the games, like not equally, but I do like them all. There's no game that I point to and I'm like, I hate this. I never want to play it again. But it means a lot to me. The community means a lot to me. The people I've met through this mean a lot to me. It's just something that's become part of my life so far. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. The next question kind of leads off from that. E-Vampire says, as a Fire Emblem fan, what do you think about the people who get into the fan base because of the Super Smash Bros. Franchise? And what do you think about those who talk shit about them because too many swords? Well, I got into the series because of Super Smash, so I don't technically judge people for getting into the series from Super Smash Bros., but the too many swords thing, I can kind of see it. I mean, are Lucina and Chrom really both necessary? Not really. You know, there's some Smash characters you could cut out the roster. I would probably remove Chrom if I had to, but yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's whatever. You know, I think there's always going to be bad blood in communities, no matter what you do, and there's nothing you could do about it. And we just do our own thing and we move on. Next question is from James, who says, happy anniversary. My question is, what would be your Fire Emblem 3 Houses' strengths and weaknesses? That's a good one. I've never really thought about that one. Part of me wants to say I'd have like a strength in magic, the dark magic or whatever it's called. Either that or swords. That's kind of what I lean towards anyways in my weapon preferences. And my weaknesses? I would have to say probably flying. I feel like flying would be my weakness. Not that I'm scared of flying in real life or anything, but just because, I don't know. Or maybe cavalry. I'm not really someone who's ever done like horseback riding or anything like that. So maybe that would be one of my weaknesses. I feel much safer on my own 2 feet than in water or in the air, if that makes sense. That's a good question. I hadn't thought of that before. Next question comes from Ethan Pang. This is actually a lot of questions. Number 1 is, any chance of Fire Emblem challenge runs, Iron Man, LTC, or 0% growths? I did do an Iron Man stream, I think it's almost 2 years ago now, for FE7 for Hector Hard Mode, so I have done one before. I don't know if I have any planned on the horizon. I think it would be something that's better suited for my channel to be a stream series than it is to be like a video series. Or maybe I could think of something to do with it, but I don't have any plans for it yet. That doesn't mean there's no chance for it. 2, any LPs that you're collaborating with. I've collabed with Speedy on an FE4 stream playthrough, so you can check that on his channel if you want to see it. At the moment, I don't think I have any LPs that I've been asked to collab with so far, but I'm always open to them if people want to ask me to do so. 3 is TeliusScribble.io with Speedy when? We already recorded this. He's working on it, so whenever it's out, it's out. Stay tuned. 4 is Overcooked 2 with FE-Tubers when? I don't know. I don't even have the game, but if I'm approached to do Overcooked 2 with FE-Tubers, I'm not saying no. I never say no to collabs usually, so I'd be open to it. And Arvis BBQ when? It happens on a daily basis. Every time you watch me or you hear my voice or you see my channel, that's just an Arvis BBQ concealed behind me. It's there, it's always there. The next question comes from Helen on Twitter. Of the characters yet to be added to Fate, which one do you want to be added the most? Well, this is ironic because if you asked me this 3 days ago, I would have said Shamir. Now Shamir's here and I kind of have to revisit my list. And I think by default, the top of my list would be these 3 characters. Lex from Genealogy of the Holy War, Fergus from Thracia 776, and number 3 would be Oswin from FE7. I like all 3 of those characters. I guess, runner-up honorable mention would probably be Pent. And then maybe Marianne from 3 Houses, because I really do like Marianne. All right, now it's time for some hot takes. So James on Twitter says, rather take questions, but for the sake of satiating my curiosity, if you could design a banner in Fae, what would the theme be, and who would it feature? Well, I'm biased. So I'll give you two answers. One of them is my own personal biased banner, which I kind of just mentioned. I would just put my favorite characters on it and be like underrated FE characters. And I'd put Lex, Fergus, Oswin. I don't know if Pent counts as underrated, but it's surprising that he's not in Heroes yet. People like that. I would have put Geese on it, but he got included. I would have put someone like, Sacred Stones. I have a lot of characters I like in Sacred Stones. Who do I like? Well, Selena's already on a banner, but I'd put her normal form in. Yeah, I don't know. I can't off the top of my head. For some reason, I'm blanking. I have a whole list, but it would be biased. From an unbiased, but still biased perspective, I would do a villains banner. There are so many great villains in Fire Emblem who get relegated to Grand Hero Battle units or Tempest Trial units, and they're just kind of bad as a result. Just put them on a banner. Let us have these characters. Let them be good. Like Ashnard was great. Patrine was great. Sure, they're missing something. If they were banner units, they would have been better. But yet, let us have these. Let's give it to us. And then after that, he asks, how do you personally feel about the direction Fire Emblem has been taken in the past year? It's interesting. I think we're moving forward from the direction that was the 3DS games. They weren't terrible. They did bring in some good and bad. I feel like it did split a lot of the fan base. And, we know why. The 3DS games could have been questionable in a lot of certain aspects. However, 3 Houses did some things right, and it also did a lot of things wrong. And I did talk about this in my 3 Houses review video, but I think in terms of quality, we're moving in a good direction. And I feel like it's regained a little bit of my faith in the story aspect. While 3 Houses wasn't perfect in the story aspect, they did manage to write a couple of compelling storylines that I can get behind. So I haven't lost faith in Intelligent Systems. They have regained my faith a little bit more somewhat, and I'm feeling kind of good. I think we're out of the 3 Houses honeymoon phase where I can safely say that and look towards the future and be very excited for the future of Fire Emblem. I think everyone should be. The next question comes from Master Knight, who asks, what is your favorite character aside from Arvis? Probably Shamir, I think. And the next one is, what direction do you want the next Fire Emblem game to go towards, whether it should be a remake or a brand new game? What new features would you like to see added? And do I have red hair IRL? I'm sorry to disappoint you, I do not have red hair IRL. As for the direction for the next game, I guess this kind of echoes the last question, which is why I put them back to back. I would like to see the Garrigmac Monastery exploration got really bland. But what I would really like to see, I would love to see a Genealogy remake. I'm biased. I'm gonna come out and say that. But what I would like to see is an explorable home base area, battle preparations area, that changes depending on the castle you are in Genealogy. Because the way FE4 works, for my viewers who aren't aware of what FE4 is you traverse the map through the gameplay, moving from castle to castle as you battle your way around the map. I think it would be really cool if, say, you start in the normal forest area, then you move to a snow area. Your battle preparations castle would be different because you're in a different setting, so you'd see different people. You'd see kind of like the way Shadows of Valentia did it, where you had the little different explorable maps, but on a grander scale, because that's the scale that FE4 portrays. So I would love to see a remake next. I think we're due a remake if they're going to alternate, new mainline with remake. Obviously, we had 2 mainline games in a row with Awakening and Fates, so they could just go for another mainline game. We really don't know what they're going to do, and I don't expect to hear something until maybe summer of next year. I think that's just the way IS operates. They usually leave us hanging for about a year. So we'll see. Good question. The next question is from Lman Pad, which also kind of tails off the direction of Fire Emblem theme, is what do you think post-Awakening Fire Emblem is missing? Okay, so if you had asked me this question before Three Houses, I would have said it's missing good quality support conversations. Now that you're asking me this after Three Houses, where we have seen some extremely high-level support conversations and character development, I think they've compensated in that aspect. What I think is lacking is decisiveness. And this is what I mean. The game gives you 4 routes in Three Houses. Fates gave you 3. Awakening gave you 1. So if we're talking post-Awakening, I think the developers are undecided on how they want players to perceive their story. And I think this takes away from the story when it's not perfected, rather than add to the story when it is perfected. And so you really have a tale that you're trying to tell that is not linear per se, but it's not non-linear either. It's kind of like just in a multiple different directions that does not really wrap up canonically. And sometimes that can work. It just doesn't really fit here, and it feels like they're trying to do a jack of all trades, master of none, as opposed to perfecting one direct, straight story. I hope that makes sense. I feel like that's kind of what's lacking. Fire Emblem hasn't always had the strongest stories, but I feel like it has the potential to do so. There's no reason why we shouldn't have a strong story. So, maybe we work towards that. Quickalus from Twitter asks, if a Fire Emblem fighting game got announced, would you main Sigurd? I know you're joking. I would definitely not main Sigurd, but to add a little bit to that conversation, I would be very interested to see how they would handle mounted units in the first place, because Sigurd is canonically only mounted. I would assume they would just put him on his own 2 feet. But in terms of lords, I would probably main Hector. I feel like if a fighting game got announced, it would probably be a roster just full of the lords and some really popular picks. Arvis probably ain't getting in. Hector would. I would probably main Hector, as long as he's not like his armored clunky form. For people that don't know, Hector in FE7, when he starts out in his base lord form, is actually infantry class. Heroes has warped that perception of people. Hector starts out with 5 movement in FE7, which is the infantry level base movement. And when he promotes into an armored class that does not get a movement increase. There you go. Give me infantry Hector, please. Parker C asks, what would your ideal Fire Emblem game be like? And why does the villain quote green eggs and ham so much? Even though I'm fairly new to your channel, only being subbed for a few months, you are one of my favorite creators. Keep up the amazing work and streams. Thank you so much, Parker. I really do enjoy doing the streams. It gives me sort of an unfiltered sort of access to you guys to just chat with while I play random games. So if anyone hasn't come by to the streams, they're fairly regular, Thursdays and Saturday nights, EST. Stop by, say hi, ask me a couple questions there if I didn't answer your questions in this video. Anyways, back to Parker's question. My ideal Fire Emblem game does not exist. The closest that came to it was FE4. Why? Because I feel like there's too many games here in this world that have good endings for main characters. You know, you're a main character, you can make as many mistakes along the way as you want, but because you play the protagonist, you are guaranteed to win. I don't like that, because in life, we don't always win. Sometimes the main character loses in life, sometimes the villain wins. So I'd like to see a Fire Emblem game where the villain actually wins. If FE4 was only Gen 1 by itself as a standalone game, I think that would actually be the perfect game. Sometimes you just don't win. Sometimes you make too many mistakes and it ends up costing you permanently. That would be my ideal Fire Emblem game. Tell me a story about that. And then, you know what? I'll throw them a bone. Tell me a story about that, and then make a sequel to it where there's like a redemption arc later down the line. I would be okay with that, maybe. But sometimes a good story is just about, you know, where you lose and where you went wrong, not where the others went wrong, if that makes sense. That would be my ideal Fire Emblem game. And why do I quote Green Eggs and Ham so much? I don't. It was just kind of an Among Us stream meme where I just did it for the heck of it. And it turned out really funny, at least for me. Maybe some other people didn't like that, but yeah. Mecha Wilson asks, do you prefer linear Fire Emblem games or non-linear, and why? I always prefer linear games. It's just how I am. I like things to be told in a very direct and well-written story. I focus more on story than I do on gameplay. So I just prefer linear in that regard. Non-linear kind of gets a little bit messy. I don't like part of the aspect of non-linear where you can kind of grind off-map. I know it's optional, and everyone's going to bring up the fact that it's optional, but because it's optional, it means the game isn't balanced around it, and it just doesn't feel right to me. Sometimes I get tempted and I go off and I'm like, ooh, a shiny, I want to chase after this, and then it comes back to bite me because the next map's too easy. So I prefer just having my handheld and being like, you are going here next, and then you are going here, and then you are going here. It keeps me centered, it keeps me focused on, you know, sort of the story, on the progression. It allows the developers to more so balance their gameplay around the fact that the player is going to do X amount of things. This is the maximum they can do before the next chapter, so we can tweak and gear and polish the next chapter based off of that. Zyvolt on Twitter asks, who is your favorite non-Arvis villain? I'm assuming this is I'll answer this in two parts, I guess. My favorite Fire Emblem non-Arvis villain, and this might change if I think about it a little bit more, but it might have to be Valter. And here's why. Because villains need to be two things to be good, and I think this is actually a question coming down the line, but a villain needs to be effective, or a villain needs to be well-written. Arvis is the latter. He's very well-written. Valter is the former. He is effective. He is a pest. He's there in your face from the prologue, and then he constantly shows up throughout the story to remind you, hey, I'm here, I'm still an asshole. Hey, I'm here, I'm still an asshole. Hey, I'm here, I'm a pain in your side. Hey, I'm here, oh, by the way, I killed an innocent person and I'm framing you. Valter just does such a good job of making you hate the guy so much that when you eventually get the chance to fight him, you're like, oh man, I'm ready. I'm ready to throw down. I'm ready to annihilate this guy, rip him limb from limb. At the same time, he does have a little bit of a backstory. You know, you can kind of empathize with the guy a little bit, but he's still, you know, crazy. And that makes him effective. Ashnard is somewhat similar, but Ashnard isn't in your face about it, so he's kind of a little bit lower on my tier list there. Next question comes from Tactless Tactician, who asks, who is your favorite playable mage in the main series? I feel like I'm supposed to answer Soren because the profile picture is a Soren, but it's not Soren, it's probably Ced, because Ced with Forseti is just busted, and he's a lot of fun to use. Second question he asked is, what draws you to characters like Arvis or other emperors? I don't know. I have a thing for villains and anti-heroes. I feel like they're more compelling. They're just more interesting. It's much more interesting to see someone who has a morally ambiguous side to them, who doesn't always do the very clean-cut right thing, quote unquote. So yeah, and then question 3 is Arvis BBQ when? How many times am I gonna have to answer this question? I don't know. Yosh the Dumbass asks a few questions here. There's a ton of favorite character besides Arvis already, so my questions are, what's something you miss from your childhood? This is a general question, but I feel like it applies to Fire Emblem. I miss playing the games without any of the external noise. I know I make content about these games as like my side hobby, but if you guys, when a new game comes out, can like isolate yourself a little bit from all of the YouTube content. I know I probably shouldn't be saying this, controversial, gonna get me in trouble with my collaborators, or like all the spoilers. At least if you can stay spoiler free I miss that because back when I was a lot younger, I'm probably a lot older than most of you guys, but when I was a lot younger, we didn't have really that much internet access. Message boards were a lot more basic. So you had to figure games out by yourself. And I feel like that, one, it helps you enjoy things more. And two, you learn to be a better player of whatever game you are. Like, I had to figure out Fire Emblem 7 on my own as a kid in like elementary school. That's not easy, figuring out a strategy RPG, but I learned from that, and I still take everything I learned from that experience forward in how I play Fire Emblem today. So it's interesting. I do miss that. And then least favorite characters in FE or even other media. If it's Fire Emblem, all of the Shadow Dragon characters are my least favorite. They have like no personality whatsoever for the most part. A lot of them are just cardboard cutouts. Other media, I don't know. I don't really have characters that I despise. I feel like I generally see the value in a lot of characters, but the Shadow Dragon characters just don't have personality. Not their fault. It was the first game in the series. They just exist to be used. And which FE rep would you remove from Smash, and would you replace them with anyone else? I would remove Chrom and replace them with either Hector or Arvis. I feel like Hector's the better choice because he has more options. All right, Jay-Z asks, 1, favorite Three Houses character, Shamir. Constance is a good runner-up. I do like Constance a lot. 2, favorite Fire Emblem story, besides FE4. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I want to say the Tellius games. You can't put one over the other because I feel like a lot of people say Path of Radiance, amazing story, blah. I disagree. I feel like Path of Radiance is only good because of Radiant Dawn. Radiant Dawn takes the story of Path of Radiance and it makes it make sense. It like adds so much exposition to everything that happened in Path of Radiance. I think the Tellius games together spin a tale that is really, really interesting. You've got a really interesting villain, you know, morally ambiguous characters, a compelling story. I love it. I think the Tellius games are fantastic. And 3 is Fei Bei. Not really. The next question comes from Whiny Magician 5 on Twitter, and it's how do you rank the games within the series? I think it can bring up some interesting discussion points, assuming everyone is civil about it. LOL. Yeah, when it comes to ranking the games in the series, nobody's going to be civil about it, but I will entertain your question. I did do a tier list for the games a while back that I posted on Twitter. I'll dig it out and I'll post it here in the video. If you want to look at it in depth, you can pause it and take a look. That's my ranking. I'm not going to go through them one by one. That's probably enough content for its own video, but I will plug Speedy Hawk's Fire Emblem tier list video here. You can click on the little thing up at the top. That'll take you to a 3-hour discussion that we had about the Fire Emblem games tier list with a bunch of other content creators that you guys can go and listen to and check out. That was a great discussion. Vishu asks, what is the best map in the series? I can't answer this because I'm writing an entire script about it that I've recorded and I'm still editing, which is the map design video. So stay tuned for that one. It's coming. I promise it's almost done. And then the second question is top 10 Fire Emblem games off the top of your head. The tier list is probably still on the screen. Wisdom asks, which character in Fire Emblem do you think is underrated? And let's make this interesting. No Arvis or Shamir as your answer. I actually don't think Arvis or Shamir are underrated at all, so I wouldn't have answered these. But if I were to think about it a little bit, I feel like Renault is one of the most underrated characters in the Fire Emblem series. Why do I say that? I say that because Renault is a character that you get in either the second to last chapter or the third to last chapter, depending on whose story you're playing in FE7. He's a character that is very deeply intertwined with the plot, that you have very few chances to flesh out supports with, and very few people will use him because he just isn't a great character. And you get him so late that you've already got your full team invested in. Having said that, his backstory is super interesting. He's got like a direct connection with the villain in the story. He's got a direct connection with like some of the major X chapters and side stories in the entire game. He's just insane. Like some of his supports with other characters, you read this and you go, what? So I think Renault is extremely underrated. I think anyone who hasn't played FE7 and really explored sort of the lore and intricacies that are kind of so beautifully layered into the background of the story, you should do that. FE7's a great game. It has a lot of great replayability value. Seriously, go look into it. I know it gets a lot of heat for its like the holes in its story and all that kind of stuff. Ignore all that noise. Go have fun. It's a fun game to play. I really like it. The next question comes from just someone passing by, and he asks, what is the most impactful death moment in the series? That's easy. FE4's Battle of Valhalla. You know, when I saw that one for the first time, I could not believe it. I got to play FE4 completely blind with no spoilers, That's the reason why it's my favorite game of all time. That moment is incredible. It's unbelievable. 2, what is your least favorite Fire Emblem game? And I think this ties into some of the next couple questions. But my least favorite one is Shadow Dragon. I will say why when I address the next couple questions. And the third question is, what is your favorite class? I think it's probably the Swordmaster class. I just love everything about it since FE7. I just like the class. I think it's cool. Bugaboo asks, what are your most defining Fire Emblem experiences playing throughout your time playing the series? I think the big one was when I first managed to beat Battle Before Dawn in FE7 the first time I played it. That was a big one for me because it was really the first difficulty spike that I had experienced as a first-time beginner Fire Emblem player. The second one was probably unlocking the villains in the post-game in Sacred Stones. I had so much fun doing that. The third most defining moment is in Radiant Dawn. When I bought Radiant Dawn, call me naive, I was a lot younger. I didn't think it was actually a sequel to Path of Radiance, so I didn't expect to see all the characters come back. But the little cutscene after Elincia's Gambit with the Grail Mercenaries, I popped off when I saw that. Because at that point, we had played through like half the game and we hadn't seen any of them. So I was like, yeah, whatever, I give up. I don't think they're ever going to come back. I went nuts over seeing all the Grail Mercenaries come back. It's still one of my favorite cutscenes in the entire series. Question number 2 is, do you base your judgments of FE games more on story or on gameplay? I try to be fair, realizing that this is a strategy RPG and that it should be mostly based off gameplay, but personally, I'm just much more of a story-inclined person and a character-inclined person that I generally tend to base most of my experience more off that. And 3, do you feel like branching out to some other franchises? I feel like you'd love stuff like the Shin Megami Tensei series or something similar to Majin Tensei actually plays like what you'd think a Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem game would be. I am thinking of branching out, and I've already started to somewhat. I did post like an Animal Crossing video. We've done sort of the Among Us streams, the Breath of the Wild streams. I do have footage recorded for things like Pokken Tournament that I haven't edited yet. I have footage for Monster Hunter that I haven't edited yet that have been collaborations with other guys. So I feel like I could post those at some point. I don't know if my channel necessarily likes me branching out. We don't usually get the big viewership or big support when we do. So I'll test the waters slowly, you know, I'll start weaving it in slowly, and if my channel works that way, then so be it. We'll figure it out moving forward. I do want to play other games on the channel though, maybe review a few of them. I think I'm definitely going to review Breath of the Wild, that's for sure. The next question is actually a brilliant question by XXX Tactician. He asks, what's your favorite aspect about your least favorite Fire Emblem game? That's a really good question. Shadow Dragon's my least favorite Fire Emblem game, but what made me really have so much fun playing Shadow Dragon is actually very controversial, and it's the PvP. I loved the PvP in Shadow Dragon, and I can go into entire videos worth of rant about why I love the PvP in Shadow Dragon. That just made the game replayable for me, and it made me have fun trying out and building different teams to try and counter different, things that I came up against that I couldn't beat in the PvP. So that's it. And then who's my favorite American football player of all time? I feel like I really like Ray Lewis. He's a very inspirational guy. I haven't really thought about my favorite player, but Ray Lewis is up there. The next question comes from Bruh on Twitter. I'm relatively new to the channel, but I wanted to know if you have an earlier Fire Emblem game to recommend. I've played almost all of the newer ones and Blazing Sword, but I want to play some of the other older ones. Which game do you recommend? So if you've played Blazing Sword, and what I assume by newer ones, I'm assuming it's the Awakening and Fates and Three Houses and Shadows of Valentia. If you haven't played Echoes, I would recommend playing Echoes. It is a very beautiful game in the way it looks and in the way it sounds. Gameplay-wise, it can get a little bit iffy for newer players. Some people struggle with like the older battle system, but it's still a good game. Otherwise, Sacred Stones is just dumb fun. Like, you can have a lot of fun playing Sacred Stones, and the characters are interesting, and it has the best cast of villains. And the Tellius games are fantastic. You can't really go wrong with Fire Emblem games. I would stay away from Thracia until you feel like you have a good enough grip on what older Fire Emblem games feel like to play, because Thracia can be very frustrating for a newer player. Genealogy, obviously, I have nothing much to say about that. It's my favorite game of all time, so play that, but you really can't go wrong. Just start playing through them all. Have fun with it. And the last question about sort of Fire Emblem relating stuff here is coming from Irma Tribura, and it's asking, how would you recommend for someone to start making videos about FE? That is, type of content, programs, etc. Sorry if this isn't what you expected from the questions. I honestly would have been disappointed if I didn't get at least one question asking about that myself, because it is the 3-year anniversary. I've been making videos for 3 years. I have learned a few things. And I think the number one thing I would recommend is just do it. I know it's really cliche, and I know everyone says it, but honestly, it is the biggest thing. A lot of people are going to be unsure about putting their opinions, their voices, their content on the internet, and you're afraid of criticism. You're going to get criticism no matter what. Every video I post has at least one dislike. There's always going to be at least one person who either does not like you, does not agree with you, or does not like the type of content you create. And that's fine. People disagree with each other in this day and age. I've accepted that. Sometimes you get really nice constructive criticism, and you can, take that and build on it as you move forward, but never let that be a deterrent for you actually starting to create content. Just get out there and do it. Find a subject that you think is interesting, because you have to like the things that you upload. If you don't like them and you don't believe in them, it's going to show in your product. It's going to be of lower quality, and people are going to see that. So make sure that you're enjoying the type of thing you upload, and from there on, you can actually build a channel around people who like what you like. And that just makes things so much more fun and so much easier. So just do it, honestly. Find a topic you like, make a video about it, upload it, ping me on Twitter, send it to me. Be like, hey, I made this video, I want your opinion on it. How can I improve? I'm more than happy to look at videos and give you advice. Actually, I lied. I forgot that I had a folder with FE4/Arvis questions in it that I needed to answer. So there's about 5 of these. So here we go. Piano Man asks, what's your ideal qualities for a good FE villain? I think we already went through this earlier, but the second portion we did, on a scale of 1 to 10, your feelings on the Arvis Refine. All right, I'm gonna make this very clear. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna say it once. I don't think the Arvis Refine is bad. I personally don't like it, because I play Arvis as a very offensive, solo playing character, who I designed to be self-sustainable for the most part. I don't like Broadleaf because it plays off enemy debuffs. I prefer Blade Tome because it plays off player buffs, which I can control more easily. So the Refine does not work the way I play the game, thus I do not like it. If you like the Refine and it works the way you play the game, that's totally fine. I'm not criticizing you for liking the Refine. I just don't like it. And so my Arvis is never going to get the Refine. End of story. That is all. Joe Met asks, if you don't mind, what are your favorite hobbies? Well, obviously, making YouTube content is one of my favorite hobbies. I love playing video games. Genshin Impact, been stealing away all my time recently. I love watching and playing sports. People probably don't expect that from someone who does YouTube videos about Fire Emblem, but there you go. Big into sports here. That's pretty much it. I don't know if I have anything crazy. I watch a lot of anime, maybe too much anime, more than your average person. That's another hobby, I guess you could say. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I like to piss people off for a living. Sometimes it's fun being the villain, Ibinku asks, Arvis VTuber when? So I did actually consider this for a while when VTubers were first blowing up. But one, it costs a lot of money to get this whole VTuber thing working and in high quality. I would love to do it. It's just extremely expensive, and I don't know if it's really worth the returns on it. But hey, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd like to do it. I don't really know where to look, where to start, who to commission, stuff like that. It's kind of hard. I kind of just pushed it out of my mind, but I am open to it. I wouldn't say no. I think it would be fun. I think people on stream would really like it. Kevin asks, how do you feel about being known as the Arvis dude when you've done other videos? I don't mind it. I actually am flattered that I'm known as anything, to be honest, because sometimes this community is massive, and I feel like not a lot of people know who I am. You guys who watch my videos do, and I appreciate that, but yeah, I don't feel like my name is a very household name in the Fire Emblem community. At least maybe not yet. We'll see. If I piss enough people off, maybe it will be. Bulky Nemesis asks, going to be a common question, when did you first play Genealogy and what was your first impression on Arvis and why you like him? Guess what? Turns out it's not a very common question. I first played Genealogy back in 2011, almost 10 years ago. Scary to think that. Actually, it might have been the end of 2010. No, it was definitely 2011. It was the end of 2011, 9 years ago now. And I played that game blind. I really enjoyed it, and then when Arvis did the whole Battle of Valhalla thing, spoiler alert for people who don't want spoilers, I hadn't paid attention to Arvis much during that at all. He would show up, and I didn't know how important he would be, just because I didn't know anything about FE4. And when Gen 1 came to a close, I was like, all right, you weren't on my radar before, now you are. And Gen 2 was a beautiful tale that showed you mostly the consequences of the decisions that Arvis had made in Gen 1, along with the other villains, and sort of how things spiraled out of control, ultimately leading into his semi-redemption arc at the very end, and giving Seliph closure for what he regretted doing all those years ago. I think he's a fantastically written character. I always have, and always will. It was just a great first experience overall. Now that's the end of the Fire Emblem questions, and we can move on to the general questions. This video is getting really long. I ramble a lot. Anyways, ALC asks, what series do you enjoy most outside Fire Emblem? Xenoblade. I say it now, I'll say it again. Genealogy of the Holy War is my top favorite game. My next favorite games, both of them, are Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2. Yes, I did say Xenoblade 2. You did not hear me stutter. I absolutely adore that game. I think it's so much fun to play. I think the story still holds up. If you have issue with anime tropes, that's your fault. I love anime tropes, so it works for me. The world is brilliantly put together. It's so much fun to explore and create your characters and just do crazy amounts of damage. And it is linked to Xenoblade 1. I love it. So Xenoblade. If you haven't played it, play it. What's your favorite game to play with friends? You see, prior to Among Us coming out, I would have said Mario Kart. But Among Us is just so much fun to play, especially if you have VC. I say right now that goes to Among Us. And what do you think of Arvis and Sias's refines? I've already put that in a previous question. Mbor Buff asks, where do you keep Valflame? In the oven. If you don't believe me, look at the picture on screen. When will you host the Grillmaster official barbecue? I want to join. What is this, the third time? I gotta put a BBQ counter on the screen. It's probably the third time. Read in one go of verbose. I'm not reading that, sorry. Abrar Khan asks, why did you start your YouTube channel? Also love your vids, keep up the good work. Thank you, friend. Why did I start it? I honestly was bored. I didn't have much in the way of things to do back in 2017, and I had promised Roltaire, who is one of my good friends, that if Arvis ever got added to Fire Emblem Heroes, I would start doing solos with him. So the day Arvis got added to Fire Emblem Heroes, I uploaded a video, 1, beating the Arvis Grand Hero Battle, and then 2, beating the Arvis Grand Hero Battle with Arvis and 3 dancers. That's how it started, and I kind of never stopped since then. So there's your channel lore. If you go back and watch my old videos, you'll see they're all unedited phone uploads with no thumbnails. It's pretty crazy. We've come a long way. One Final Stand asks, who are your life/YouTube role models? That's a really tough one, because I try not to have one specific role model that I look to, but I try to find people and inspire certain aspects that they've done really well into my own life and content. Obviously, I look up to a lot of my family members. I feel like, without them, I would be nothing. I am blessed with an amazing family, amazing parents, and amazing siblings. And it's a very inspirational thing for me. So those are sort of my role models. I don't really have any celebrities that I look up to or anything like that. It's mostly just people in general. I think a lot of humans have a very good amount of, good virtues that you can learn from and take from. In terms of YouTube though, I've actually got a lot of content creators that I get inspired from. One of the biggest ones that I've only discovered a year ago, thanks to one of my good friends, Castless, is a old school RuneScape content creator by the name of Jimmy, one instead of the I. I'll leave a link to one of my favorite videos of his up on top. Jimmy does a great job of telling a story, and through that he weaves in music into his story, into his videos, and it's very nicely structured. And I feel like I would love to move my content more so in that direction to mirror Jimmy's content. I feel like he makes some excellent videos. They're always super entertaining. I'm always completely engaged until the very end. He's got some really good humor. He's just a great content creator overall, and I would love to one day be able to put out quality that is to that level. Who else do I really like? I love Penguin Zero or Moist Critical or whatever you want to call him, Charlie. I think he's fantastic. I think he's hilarious. I think he has a very honest personality, and I think I appreciate that a lot. There's, what you see is what you get from him. There's nothing hidden behind the scenes, and I appreciate that a lot in YouTubers. You don't really get that these days, and I feel like it's very, very valuable. One of my earliest YouTube inspirations that I absolutely love is Ownage Pranks. If you guys have never heard of Ownage Pranks, that guy used to and still is hilarious with his prank calls. That's like one of the first channels I ever subscribed to. And How can I make this list without including Little Karibo and Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series? Possibly one of the earliest series I ever watched on YouTube. Little Karibo and Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series are just memes that will last the test of time. He's great. I've been watching since like episode 8. Love him. You know, however long he wants to take with creating and finishing the series, I'm okay with that because he has crafted such a masterpiece. The second question, what are you most proud of in your life so far? I want to say I might be most proud of this YouTube channel because this is something that I built by myself from the ground up, from zero. I didn't have any external help from anyone I know in my life. All of the connections I've established over YouTube have been through my own efforts online, collaborations, meeting the right people, making friends, learning the right skills to edit my videos. I didn't know how to edit videos before this. I've taught myself so much through doing this, and I feel like this is my baby that I'm raising slowly, that I have done all on my own, and it's kind of like the first major thing that I've really done on my own, so that, you know, it might be this, as bad or good as that might sound. I don't know. Cosmic Traveler asks, are you a cat or dog person? Choose wisely. As the owner of a cat, I am obliged to say I am a cat person. Cats know when you talk trash about them. I am not allowed to say I am anything else. I am being held under gunpoint. Just saying, I'm a cat person. Blake Blast asks, do you have any plans for other FETuber event in different games, not just trendy YouTube games? Yeah, I did mention earlier I have Monster Hunter and Pokken tournament footage that I'm sitting on. I will probably edit those down at some point, even though it's been a long time since we filmed them. I feel like it's a shame that they don't go uploaded because there was a lot of nice moments in them. So yeah, we'll have some other events. I was going to do an Animal Crossing event that I never put into action just because I got lazy and other things were going on. But we will. There's always going to be FETuber events. I will always host collaborations. I love collabing with friends and other people. So yeah. Becky asks an amazing question. I want to ask one thing. Would you ever consider doing YouTube as a full-time job? I love your videos, by the way. I'm going to be straight with you. Yes. And if I could, I would. Right now, I'm not at the point where YouTube or streaming is able to fund me personally. It takes a while for that to build up. It's not something that's really easy to do. Having said that, I guess you guys have the right to know this, but as of recently, I quit my job. And that's not, I don't want you guys to feel bad for me. It's not because of COVID, and it's not because I got fired or I got let off. It was completely my decision to remove myself from an environment where I felt that I could not grow any further, and I wasn't deriving much satisfaction from. I am probably going to be out of the job for a while. I realize that. And so a lot of effort is going to be going into this YouTube channel by virtue of me having a lot of free time and nothing else to do. Don't worry, I'm going to be fine. I'm not going hungry. I can take care of myself for a decent amount of time. But since you asked if I'm considering doing it as a full-time job, currently it's the only job I have. So there you go. I'm going to try. That's why I've been streaming more. That's why I'm trying to, build a little bit bigger of a stream audience, because I feel like, maybe eventually we can make something of that. And I'm going to start putting more effort into making videos. At the moment, I'm still trying to settle down a little bit, which is why there haven't been very many uploads. That and the fact that I've been totally addicted to Genshin Impact and streaming Breath of the Wild. But long-winded answer to your question, but I saw it. I was like, maybe I should tell these guys what's going on. So there you go. Bismix, it's funny I butchered your name considering I talk to you almost every day, but he asks, when can we expect to get a face reveal? The world needs to know. All right, I'm going to be straight with y'all. Not anytime soon, but eventually. And hey, going off this last thing, if YouTube ever does become big enough to be my full-time job, I'll do a face reveal easily. But because of the type of job that I do, if I'm going to apply for a normal job down the line, I feel like having my face and identity tied to an internet persona might not be the best idea. Without getting into too much details of what I do for a living, that's my vague answer to things. And I'm just going to be honest about it. There's no reason in hiding that. That's mainly the reason why I don't reveal my face. That's just it. If YouTube's my job, I will gladly do so. I'll buy a webcam and I'll do it. If you do want to see a funny face reveal prank, go to my 5K sub special. You can see something funny there. Yes. Castless asks, why you had to mention Genshin Impact to me and ruin my life schedule? Because the game's amazing. Everyone should play Genshin Impact. I love the game. Even when you hit like the end game no content zone, it's still a really fun game to have played. I got like 100 hours of content out of that game before I hit the end zone. It's amazing. Everyone should play it. Go play Genshin Impact. Draco asks, who are your Genshin waifu / husbando? Pick one for each. All right, I'm gonna put both of them on screen. My Genshin waifu is Mona, for obvious reasons. I don't know if I need to explain that, but I will. I like dark-haired girls with pretty faces. It's that easy. And the husbando part, I guess I would pick Diluc. Also for obvious reasons. At first I looked at Diluc and I was like, this guy just looks like an Arvis clone. I don't know if I like him. But then I did his side story, and I like Diluc. So if I'm ever gonna gun for any 5 stars, it's gonna be those two. Come to me, Mona and Diluc. Adrella asks, do you like green eggs and ham? Another reference to the Among Us stream I see. I feel like real talk, I feel like I would, because it's just food coloring over eggs and ham, right? I don't see what the big deal is. Yeah, I think so. King Toxic asks, 1, do you get help to edit some of your videos? No, I edit mostly everything myself. I do get help with some thumbnails. My friend Blue, if you guys ever see a beautifully drawn, like a hand-drawn thumbnail that doesn't look like my words on the left, character on the right, classic background thumbnails, that's Blue. She would have drawn that thumbnail for me. I'm gonna leave a link to her Twitter in the description below. If you guys wanna go and follow a up-and-coming artist, I would highly recommend. But in terms of editing, I don't know if I've ever gotten any help with editing specifically. I've asked, like content creators talk, and I'm lucky to have a group of people that I can talk to, that I can fall back on and be like, I don't know how to make this thing. Can you help me, like, either 1, teach me how to do it, or 2, offer to do it for me? Like, JAIK has definitely helped me make layouts in the past. Like, he's just been like, here, I'll do it for you. And he's done it. In my Raphael video, he made a beautiful graphic for me to use, for example. That was really good. So I do get some help, but for the most part, I try and teach myself all the skills necessary to edit my own videos. But everyone should always ask for help if they're, struggling with something, because odds are people are nice and they are willing to help you. And the second question is, what video did you put the most effort into and how long did it take? So this is a loaded question. I want to say, if it's just the amount of time and learning I had to do, it would have to have been my first, most heavily edited video, which is Sigurd's Not Hot, the song parody. I didn't know how to edit. I had to teach myself how to edit. I made a lot of mistakes doing that, and so it took me an obnoxious amount of time to do. It took about 2 months to make that. In terms of just pure learning new things and crafting a video, I want to say my 124 HP Raphael video. That's, to this day, it's one of the videos I'm most proud of, just because of the way it's structured. So if you haven't checked that one out, that one's one of my best videos, I think. Cowley asks, I have 2 questions. First, haven't you thought about doing Arvis cosplay? I have. And if we ever get together at like a major convention, or if I ever go to one, maybe I will. And 2, do you have other projects for later? I do. I'm working on the map design video, which I've been talking about for 3 months that I really need to go and finish. And I did briefly bring up the Monster Hunter and Boken Tournament collabs that I can upload. Aside from that, I always have so many video ideas and not enough time to implement them, so hopefully I can change that soon. I think one video I wanted to talk about was in relation to Fire Emblem Heroes. I want to sort of take a retrospective look at it for the past 3.5 years and, to say it nicely, evaluate the game. So yeah. Maybe that my opinion will change now that Shamir's in the game, but there you go. P.S. You are the mere reincarnation of the bearer of Valflame. No, my good friend, I am Valflame. Candy Cane Please asks, what's your favorite dessert? Cheesecake. Gurin asks, what games would you like to introduce to your channel besides Fire Emblem? Love your content, by the way. I would love to make some old school RuneScape videos, because I love RuneScape so much. It's just been such a big part of my life. It's never left my life. Xenoblade, if people haven't played Xenoblade, I would love to introduce them into that. I'm trying to think what series I've played that other people might not have. The Bravely Default, Bravely Second series is really good. I love those games, and Bravely Default 2 is coming out soon. Maybe I'll stream that. I can't really remember off the top of my head. I'd have to really think about this, but yeah, those are some series that I think everyone should play. Lily Tarada asks, if you had to describe your channel to someone with only a sentence, what would it be? Very easy. If you are offended by hot takes, prepare yourself because my opinions will offend you. There's my sentence. I hope that's accurate. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm nicer than I think I am. And the last question by Amen asks, best FE tuber imposter. Now, I had to think about this a little bit before you asked the question. And I came up with 2 people who were scary good as imposters in the 3 streams that we did. Yeetus and Ginkgo. Now, me and Ginkgo played a couple games off stream that I really wish we had the recordings for, because we were both imposters and we destroyed the other people as imposters. Ginkgo and I work really well as imposters together. It's scary how well we work. And Yeetus just has this very innocent, laid-back attitude where he convinces you that he doesn't know what he's doing all the time, so it's really hard to pick him out as an imposter. I think Rin also did that quite well in one of our streams. So yeah, I think those would have to be my picks. Sage Master actually does really good as an imposter too. I forgot about him. He had a couple really good games in the last stream series. So yeah, that's it for all the questions. I don't know how long this video is be. I feel like I've been talking into this mic for an hour, maybe longer. I hope you guys like that. I'm sorry for the lack of uploads lately. I've been streaming a lot more, but everything will hopefully settle down in the next few weeks. Hopefully I can get the map design video out soon. I'm going to be having a Summoner's Duel with Speedy Hawk tomorrow, so that should be up soon. And I'm thinking of streaming my Shamir pulls after the duel for any orbs that I have left. So if you see a stream from me like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, maybe come by and say hi. Aside from that, I appreciate all of you guys for the past 3 years. Thank you so much for sticking by and supporting the channel, and I hope you will continue to do so in the future because I'm not stopping. We're building something special here and we're moving forward, and I have no intention of stopping, even if I do take a few breaks here and there. Having said that, I will see you guys all in the next video. Keep living, humans. Peace.